άρχισε η οδύσσιά μου. Ο γονιάδος μου, ο Ερίκος ο Σεβίλιας, ο οποίος ήταν στο Auschwitz πέθανε με τον αριθμό.
Ερίκος Σεβίλιας από την Αθήνα.
Though fighting still raged in the Pacific Theater, World War II in Europe officially ended with Germany's unconditional surrender on May 8, 1945. Allied armed forces advanced across Europe in the war's final stages, relentlessly pursuing the retreating German army. As they did, they stumbled onto camps, often accidentally, that had been established and run by the Nazis and their local collaborators. The Soviet army, advancing from the east, liberated Nazi camps in Poland, including Majdanek and Auschwitz. The British and Canadians, advancing from the west, liberated Bergen-Belsen and camps in northern Germany. The Americans, our focus here, liberated Dachau, Buchenwald, and other camps.
As their armies advanced across Europe, the Allies found thousands of people imprisoned in camps. They encountered piles of corpses and thousands of skeletal prisoners on the verge of death from malnutrition and disease. This was their first encounter with the horror of what would come to be known as the Holocaust. They began to understand that the Nazis had committed atrocities against civilians, the vast majority of them Jews, on an unimaginable scale, and that these atrocities were very different from the deaths caused by conventional warfare. A new category of crime had to be recognized to describe the intentional attempt to destroy a people. This crime came to be known as genocide. The soldiers were the very first outside witnesses of the Holocaust, an unprecedented case of genocide.
The man came up to us and said, there's a factory about a mile down the road and you will find a lot of Jewish women in there that were trapped there and the SS is guarding them. We opened this shed, we went in there.
The testimonies of the first soldiers who entered the camps, known as the liberators, are important eyewitness accounts of the mass atrocities committed against the Jews of Europe by the Nazis and their collaborators. Hardened combat veterans, the American GIs were used to death. Many had been fighting for years, but they had never seen killings of civilians on the massive scale they discovered. Their first encounters with Holocaust survivors at this unique moment in time give us an essential and intensely human perspective on the difference between military war and genocide.
Leon Bass was 20 years old and was among the first US soldiers to arrive at Buchenwald.
I can never forget that day, because when I walked through that gate, I saw in front of me what I call the walking dead. I saw human beings that had been beaten, had been starved, had been tortured. They'd been denied everything. They had skeletal faces with deep-set eyes. Their heads had been clean-shaved and they were standing there and they were holding on to one another just to keep from falling. I saw the clothing of little children. The little children that didn't survive. Up against the wall, there were mounds of clothing. caps, sweaters, stockings and shoes, but I never saw a child.
Harry Mogen was a Jewish refugee from Nazi persecution. He reached the United States and became a soldier and a liberator.
And you saw women on the floor, on wooden pallets. When I say women, you saw skeletons. Rags hanging on them, no shoes, bones instead of faces. And the stench was so horrible. It's hard to describe.
What the American soldiers found at Ohrdruf, a subcamp of Buchenwald, was so grisly that General Dwight D. Eisenhower, then the Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force in Europe, together with Generals Patton and Bradley, arrived to inspect the camp for themselves. After his visit, Eisenhower cabled,
"The things I saw beggared description. The visual evidence and the verbal testimony of starvation, cruelty, and bestiality were so overpowering as to leave me a bit sick. I made the visit deliberately in order to be in a position to give first-hand evidence of these things if ever, in the future, there develops a tendency to charge these allegations merely to propaganda."
These words are now engraved on the wall of the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C.
The significance of the museum's collection is that it is the most comprehensive collection of Holocaust-era artifacts in the world. It helps us tell the story, the comprehensive story of Holocaust survivors and victims who witnessed the events of the Third Reich. A number of vaults are created throughout the building to serve different types of materials needs so that we can have both the security within the different vaults as well as preservation with fire suppression systems, temperature, humidity controls. In the vault that you're standing, the personal artifacts vault, we have approximately 18,000 individual items in storage. This vault can more than double the capacity that we currently have. The collection is estimated to double in size in the next 10 to 15 years. The artifacts have come from all over the world. They have been primarily donated to us from Holocaust survivors, first-hand witnesses to the event. The sewing machines that you see were used in concentration camps to create both Nazi uniforms as well as concentration camp uniforms. They help us tell the story of slave labor, forced labor, of the individuals that were incarcerated in the concentration camps.
On the count of three. 1, 2, 3.
To those in the audience who have served America in uniform, our country eternally thanks you. We are proud and grateful to be joined today by veterans of the Second World War who liberated survivors from the camps. Your sacrifice helped save freedom for the world, for the entire world.